Hey guys, this is Camfrey15 and I'm back at it with another video for you guys. And I'm back with doing another anime series review, as I did for, I think, Rent a Girlfriend. But I'm here with an anime series review, which is just me talking over an anime series that I watched and that has been done before, and I want to talk about it. So, let's talk about this, well, obviously you clicked on the video, but let's talk about this anime we're talking about, and that is Iwakakeru, the Sports Climbing Girls. Now, I remember at first, before Fall Anime 2020, got started and stuff like that, I was looking through the sheets of animes and the stuff, and I saw this, I'm like, the Sports Climbing Girls. Seems like it'd be a very interesting show to check out. And I watched it. Now, obviously Iwakakeru, the Sports Climbing Girls, whatever you want to call it, I'm just going to say Iwakakeru. Now, obviously, just looking from the poster alone, you might think, it's a sports anime about girls that climb. One, you're going to probably ask me the question, does this show have a lot of fan service? Because it seems like it's girls in very athletic, outfits and very athletic clothing, which look like they could probably reveal and show a lot of fan service-y shots. Now, I'm not gonna lie, they do have some fan service, sprinkled here and there, and are some of the shots really freaking good? Yes, but if I'm being honest, if you are afraid of checking out this anime, if you haven't checked it out, and you're afraid of seeing this because there might be too overblown done fan service. No, they kind of sprinkle some fan service in the within the first 4 to 5 episodes, and then by the time, they really focus on the story. When they get to the main story point, they focus on the story point. So you don't really have to worry about fan servicey scenes. They do show some pretty good boob and butt shots, which where your stance is on fan service, it varies to what you think about. But anyways, my thoughts on this show. I think it's actually a pretty good show. It's, I would say, probably one of the more underrated fall anime 2020s, and I think some people should really check it out because this show does have nice, a lot of heart, a lot of characters that, obviously, you can get behind and sympathize and feel for and stuff like that. And, this show really is, a very, fresh air, a fresh breaking type of thing, where, you don't have to, I guess, how might I say, free, it makes you feel like, okay, it's a sports anime, and it's about girls wanting to climb to make their school the best. And essentially, that's what I can say the summaries are. The summary is essentially this girl who used to be a shut-in named Konami, Konami Kashihara, because I got the characters right here. And, she's a shut-in at first. She played video games, she stayed in her house all the time throughout her middle school years. She finally gets to high school, and she kind of moved on from playing video games and kind of wants to be more proactive and do things and stuff like that. She ends up walking at her school, seeing this, essentially, the rock climbing wall. The things where you would always climb up and stuff like that if you were kids and stuff like that. And essentially, she runs to this essentially, competitive sports climbing team. And after a test run, she eventually joins the team and aspires to help, the other members, which is Sayo, Jun, and Nanako, to essentially, be the best climbing team in all of Japan in terms of their school. But, I liked it. I really liked it. I liked the characters. All the girls are very, good characters in their own way. Now, mostly the girls they feature most are Konami and June, and you can even tell that from the opening and even the endings of, the show. But, I still liked all the characters. Each character they did have an arc in the season, even though the season is only 12 episodes. And like I said, you know, it's just the growth and development of these characters, these girls, to want to aspire to get to their dream, to be a better climber and stuff like that. And you can see, like, from the point where, you know, Konami is, she starts, you know, at first she's kind of just, you know, an immature type of person where she doesn't know much about it, and she does it for fun. And that's the whole thing, is they're doing it for fun and stuff like that, as well as being competitive at the same time. But you see her as she goes from something where she takes it as fun and she kind of takes it for granted, and then by the time the season ends, she really does want to win for her team and her friends and stuff like that. And I did like the fact that, you know, when she was saying that she was going to take it serious, you had a nice training montage where she had to get in shape and do all these regimens to be able to have the stamina and the strength to do all this stuff. Because obviously, you know, if you're going to do something competitive, you got to train for it and stuff like that. And I did like her character a lot. Her character was very outgoing, very friendly, very kind and caring, and definitely a character that I can definitely, you know, appreciate, get behind. Excuse me. Like I said, the other really, you could say, main character of the show, other than the, you know, other two girls, which are Sayo and hold on, let me pull up their name, Nanako, is June. June was probably the second, like, main lead character next to Konami, if not the same, if not as same of importance to Konami as, you know, what she did. She had a whole arc, you know, in essentially the second half of the season, and I'll talk about that in my spoilers. Like, there is gonna be, I'm just talking about non-spoilers and my thoughts. I'll talk about the spoilers of what the main overarching story was, or the main plot point of this show was, which doesn't really show up till like episodes, like the latter half of the episodes, essentially. And yeah, it was nice to see, you know, eventually what June did, and the person she was at the start to the person she is by the time the end of the series. And just not to give spoilers, she does have a character change, you know, halfway throughout the series, throughout this show, where she goes through something that kind of brings her down, only for her to get back up and be, you know, the June we saw that was very competitive and very outgoing, with a little bit of a, you know, kind of style-like change to her personality and stuff like that. Now the other girls, Sayo and Nanako, they're there, but, you know, they do have these little mini arcs for them, each character. Like, they do have a mini arc, like, this is, well, I'll talk more about the spoilers in terms of that, but, you know, you have Sayo, what she goes on, because she's the team captain and everything, and she really, and this is her final year, too, in school, and she really wants to be the best before she eventually graduates and have, you know, her school, Hayamiya, be the best in school. Nanako is more of an outgoing personality, you know, type of person who's always energetic and always wants to be out there and celebrating her friends and stuff like that. Now she does have a nice little mini arc where she goes just like June, and even a little bit like Konami. She goes through essentially this, you know, downturn in event, which, you know, by the time the last few episodes wrap up, she learns from the mistakes she made and stuff like that. I would say Sayo probably, if I'm being honest, out of the four girls, is probably the weakest character out of them all. Like I said, they do have something where it focuses on her, but it's kind of something where it's like, oh, you'd think you'd get something, you know, kind of more developmental-wise, but at the same time you can understand, because she's kind of in her final year. She's kind of known the trials and tribulations to be a better climber and stuff like that. So I guess from that standpoint, you don't really have to have the growth of what she could do, but at the same time, you did have a nice little plot line that kind of, you know, really made her, you sympathize for the person, which I'll probably talk about in my spoiler section and stuff like that. But yeah, I liked all the girls and stuff like that. The episodes were nicely paced, even though, you know, near the end, it did get a little bit rushed, but, you know, obviously when you have 12 episodes, and it seems like, I think the manga or the book version of this series was pretty short. I guess there's only so much you can fit in anime form. Another thing I did like, and if I'm being honest, there's nothing I really disliked about this show. There's barely anything I disliked about this show. You know, other than I guess sometimes they did kind of rush some things and stuff like that. But that's kind of my only complaint. But I really did like the show. Another thing I like the show is, you know, they do have these competitions, and when you meet the other competitors from these other schools, the one thing I liked and I adored was the fact that, you know, these other competitors, they actually had a, you know, gimmick to them, or they had a naming type of thing. You know, Konomi's type of thing is essentially before she goes up to start climbing, she can essentially decipher something like honestly in a puzzle sense. And then I forgot what they exactly called her, but essentially they called her Konami, like, you know, Konami essentially the puzzle fixer or something like that. And you would have one of these like gigs or these like attachments to these names that would make these climbers individually special. To one thing, like June was known as like Hanamiya's fastest climber and stuff like that because she's a fast climber and things like that. You had one girl, I think it was Uba, who's known as like the ballerina or something like that because she climbs pretty gracefully as a ballerina, dances and stuff like that. And I really did like the fact that, you know, each character had like a specific gig or a specific naming thing to them, appreciating them. And the side characters are honestly pretty good, especially like two of the side characters. Uba was one of them, and then June's rival in this show, who kind of inspire their rivals' work, obviously June and Konami, to obviously be better and improve their game and stuff like that. And I did like if they did focus on the other side characters, I did like the fact they did that a bit and stuff like that. And then obviously even at the end, when you see Konami's really like her true rival of this series, which was the end Kurisu, shake the Kule Kurisu, you know, the repeated girl who said that thing, even though that got annoying after a while. You saw how she really challenged Konami to make her, you know, get past her limits and everything and stuff like that. So yeah, but overall, before I get into my spoilers, Iwakakeru, the sports climbing girls. It was actually a pretty good show, and like I said at the start, I think the show was pretty underrated in terms of fall anime, in terms of the fall anime 2020, you know, set we got. And honestly, if you haven't checked it out, I think you should give it a watch. You know, now if you know that genre isn't to your liking, then you can pass it on. But I liked all the characters. All the girls have something that makes them special in their own ways, and they all have character development throughout the season. Throughout the series, and stuff like that. And the way the show ended, if you're wondering, it ended it off on a note where it's like, it doesn't need a second season. If there are fans who really did like the show who wanted to see a second season, even if it did get a second season, I don't know if it would have enough material. I don't know where the manga stopped at, but I think it stopped at where 12 episodes stopped at, but, it was pretty cool. It was a pretty cool show. I enjoyed it, and I had a lot of fun. And essentially, you know, it's a nice little sports taunt anime, which, you know, you follow these girl characters, and, you know, do you see, will they be the best? And stuff like that. And obviously, I'm not trying to say anything, but obviously, you know, by the end, obviously they're gonna hit that mark. But, you know, I really liked it, and like I said, the show ended off in a way where it's like, okay, you know, that's kind of its story, and, you know, things like that. The one thing I do wish is, I do hope that it gets an English dub announced, or in the future where they just redo it and they just have a dub for it, for people who like English dubs. But I wouldn't mind rewatching this in the sub format and stuff like that. So yeah, and that's kind of it. So anyways, if you don't want to hear the spoilers, if you do want to check out this anime and give it a thought and get your opinions and stuff like that, I guess you might as well click off. I'll catch you guys in the next video, because I'm gonna get into spoilers. Anyways, I'm gonna give it some time, so I'll catch you guys back later for the spoilers. Anyways, guys, we're back for the spoilers, and here we go. So, the spoilers section, I guess you can say. Spoilers for the show, man. It was interesting because I'm really gonna talk about the girls, you know, side plots and stuff like that. So, let me get out to probably the least relevant girl, which was Sayo. Now, Sayo, her spoiler point is the fact that essentially you know, she, in one of the first competitions they show in this series, she actually injures one of her, you know, fingers or her hand or her wrist. And essentially it affects her to where she's can't climb as good as she used to. And by the time, you know, you get to the end where it's leading up to the final competition, you have Nanaka essentially kind of tells Sayo, like, listen, you know what's gonna happen. Like, your career can literally end climbing if you don't do this. And you know, you kind of have to have, you know, Sayo kind of really take a, you know, pill, a tough pill to swallow in terms of not competing and being there for her friends and her team and stuff like that. And yeah, that's kind of her thing. Other than that, she's kind of just like the overarching caretaker and the overseer of the team, and making them and teaching them these steps, even mostly Konami, to get better and stuff like that. And more importantly, she knows the other girls and stuff like that really well. So, you know, that's why I said in my non-spoiler review, she kind of really doesn't do much of anything, but, you know, she's still there in terms of teaching these characters some new things. You know, Nanaka, her story arc in this was the fact that, you know, in that same competition, she's trying to do this one climb and she can't reach this one hold because she's too short, you know. And by the time you see her in the last episode, she's been practicing some tricks and tips in terms of using her flexibility to be able to get, you know, to the point where she's able to climb some of these tough holds where usually a typical short person wouldn't be able to make it, you know. Now, you know, she's able to make it because of her flexibility and stuff like that. And I did like her. Like I said, she's very energetic. She's very, you know, she's a very good friend. That's the one thing, you know, she's a very good friend. And even Sayo, you know, in the first competition, when she had that whole thing, you can tell her and Sayo have like a sisterly type of friendship, because they really do care about each other, and they really do, you know, support and back each other up and stuff like that. You know, Sayo was there with Nanako at her lowest moment after she failed because she was too short, and then you had Nanaka at the end of the season, or at the end of the series, be there for Sayo when essentially she told her, like, listen, you can't compete, and I want you to, you know, climb for years to come. I don't want you to have some sort of injury that will make you forcibly have to stop, you know, climbing for the rest of your life. So that's what I like. The two characters are interchangeable. Now the same thing are with June and Konami. You know, June's whole thing, which, you know, they gave her a lot of pretty good development. You know, the thing is, when she first, you know, met Konami, she kind of wasn't open. You see June, when you start off the series, she's kind of closed into herself. Yeah, she's outgoing and she's morally, you know, talkative to her friends, but she kind of keeps herself, you know, to herself. Like, you know, before she had her whole big character change and stuff like that, you know, she typically ate by herself, because essentially you find out in her backstory, you know, when she first started climbing, she loved climbing so much to the point she got super competitive at it. And essentially, you know, it came to the point where sometimes when she saw somebody, you know, lesser of her, you know, she kind of shunned them out of her life and kind of just ignored them and kind of just kept to herself and stuff like that, instead of thinking about how much fun she truly had while climbing. And the thing is, you see her and Konami's little relationship start when Konami starts to be more open with her and says, you know, why don't you come sit and eat lunch with me? And then you see that happen, and the relationship as friends become better. And you can see that June is actually opening up a little bit more. But, you know, by the time you get to the first competition, you see Konami essentially, you know, and this is where her and June and Konami's stories are kind of interconnected. You see, essentially, you know, Konami's, you know, running through the first, like, trial and first batch. I think in the second competition they did, the real first legit competition they did, she's just clearing everything, like, in first go, first try. Like, she's clearing everything, and obviously the other competitors are seeing this, even June's seeing this. And the thing, especially about that part and that little mini arc there, is you see that what Konami was doing by essentially, you know, beating these climb puzzles, essentially in one go, you see it clearly affected the psyche of some characters, some of the other climbers going forward, because that's the thing is, well, if she can do it, that means I can do it too, and then you just have them, you know, fail and fail and fail and fail after time and time, and they would drop. They couldn't make it to the hole and do it in one shot. Now June, her thing was she thought she could do it the same type of thing after seeing what Konami did, and you could say she kind of got a little bit envious, kind of a bit jealous of the fact that Konami was doing this and she was only a beginner at climbing, and June, who's more experienced at doing this climbing routine, she got kind of, I guess you can say, the green-eyed monster essentially. And you saw her as she tried to do it, she couldn't do the same thing, to the point it broke her and it actually made her step away from climbing, where essentially you could say she mini retired. She kind of quit on climbing, and you get a like a 6-month time skip where she was not even interacting with any member of the teams, and she kind of kept to herself. Whenever any members of the team, mostly Konami, tried to go talk to her, she would kind of just walk off in kind of a rude, fascist way. And the thing is, when she starts to run, I guess have a job and running this I guess little gym thing where she kind of teaches these kids how to do these rock climbing stuff, it isn't until her rival gives her the inspiration to start climbing again and stuff like that, as well as Konami trying to show up and try to teach them some stuff, which gets into Konami's part of the story and stuff like that. And you see how she had trouble climbing because all she thought about when she's trying to teach these kids is the fact that, listen, Konami did this and I can't do this. And, she doesn't have the confidence within herself to start climbing until her rival comes out of nowhere and says, this isn't the June Uehara I knew, who always was outgoing and always wanted to have a challenge and always wanted to climb for fun. And it was thanks to the rival that inspired June to be the person who she is. And by the time the series ends, or the series is in its closing arc, she's a much more confident girl. She is more willing, and she's more outgoing to help out Konami. And she even becomes more of a, good friend and helper to Konami, especially in the last arc when it comes to Konami's story. And I really did like June's character. At first I thought, she's gonna be that one character on the team where, she's definitely gonna be freaking jealous, and, it's gonna be the character where I don't like on the team, the one girl I'm not gonna like on the team, because she's just gonna think, oh, Konami is just a freaking thing, or is just a freaking rookie and stuff like that. Like, I'll respect for the talent she's got, but I won't like her. Now, that totally changed. It was going that direction, but they totally changed her character, and they gave her some pretty good development, which, by the time, the series ends off, you can see she's much more confident. Even the judges were like, the time she spent off must have really worked because she's much more confident in her climbing abilities. Now, obviously, our main character, Konami, her overarching story, after really essentially learning the basics, how to climb and stuff like that, things like that. In the first tournament, she learned not to overdo herself and, learned to take some breaks every once in a while and stuff like that. But her overarching story, her main plot line is after, the 6-month time skip they have in this series. She essentially, I guess you can say at first looks like she befriends one of the opposing competitors she goes up against, which is Anne, and which is the Kula Kurasu girl. And essentially you have this very, which honestly I was crazy shocked at the fact that, there's this shower scene and you have this crazy freaking tension between these two characters, because at first you have these two characters looking like they're going to be buddy friends and stuff like that, and they're going to be like, okay, that's nice, you're pretty talented yourself and stuff like that. And it isn't until Konami brings up the fact that I want my school to be the #1 school in terms of climbing, to be the best, and that's when, you have this very tension-like scene with Konami and Anne, where Anne, essentially, her character switches 180 and she becomes essentially let's be honest, a bitch-like character, and telling Konami, oh no, you think you're gonna be the one that's gonna be coming out on top? Oh hell no, now I'm gonna be the one coming out on top. Here, and you have this very tension-like scene between the two, where you have Konami essentially training to be better than her, and she has to do this whole speed climbing thing to beat her, and things like that. And you go through this training arc where she starts to doubt herself, and she's like, I can't do this. But even in the final tournament, she even says, I can't beat her, because she goes up against a speed competition. And you even in the speed competition, she goes up against Anne. You have Anne essentially saying, it looks like she's giving her, her respects and being a good sport, but in reality, she's like, you're not gonna beat me, bitch. You're not gonna beat me, so get lost, because it's over for you. And that's why it's like, dang. Because when you go to that shower scene, you know, it really makes you like, oh, this Ant girl's really nice. And then when she says all that stuff to your main character, Konami, you're like, oh, she is a bitch, huh? And stuff like that. And, you know, by the time you get to the end, you see that Anne was really overdoing herself in terms of the climbing department. And by the time she gets to the final climb, you know, she drops because she overdid herself and she exhausted herself. She wasted her stamina and she tried to do something that she couldn't do. And then you have Konami come in and do what she did and ended up making Hamiya being the #1 school in terms of the climbing, you know, race in terms of high school, which was a nice way to end the series and stuff like that. Now, although I wish I could have got a celebration in that same episode, that's why I say if you are going to check out this series, just let you know, episode 12, well, I can't say if you're checking out the series, but obviously if you agree with me, you saw that episode 12 was pretty freaking rushed, if I'm being honest. Like, you know, by the time you had Nanako climbing, it was like almost time for the episode to be over and stuff like that. And it's like, maybe if they dedicated more time, you know, spent, maybe we could have seen like a ceremony where our girls get essentially maybe their trophy or medal to them knowing that they're #1, but they ended up winning, and that's what I liked, and I did like it, and that's why I said that I think it was a pretty good show. You have good character development, you have good antagonists for these characters set up, mostly Konami in terms of Anne and trying to be better than her. You have these training arcs where she tries her best, and then in the end, you know, it's the same thing. You have this overconfident, you know, the overconfident antagonist thinking, oh, this is a lock, I'm gonna win, I'm gonna be the far superior rookie to this, and then they kind of try to overdo themselves, and it ends up backfiring on them. And then you have the main character, who's typically the young rookie, ends up beating them. And I really like the story. And, you know, Iwakakeru, the sports climbing girl, was very fun to watch. I had some laughs, and, you know, like I said, I liked all the girl characters. I liked the characters in the show to begin with. And it's a really good show. Showing it off in a way where it didn't need a second season. And like I said, the only other thing I wish is I hope it gets a dub, because I definitely would like to rewatch it in a dub format. But we're just going to see if Crunchyroll will have to pick it up for a dub or something like that. But yeah, anyways, that's my review on Iwakakeru, the sports climbing girl. So if you like this video, leave a like, put in the comment section your thoughts on this series and your thoughts if you checked it out, and if you're wondering, have you checked it out and stuff like that. And yeah, other than that, hit that subscribe button if you want to get more anime series reviews. Put in the comment section as well, what anime series do you think I should check out and potentially review. So yeah, anyways, I'm Iwakakeru. Hopefully you guys have a great rest of your day. Until then, guys, I'll see you guys in the next video. Till then, guys, stay safe. Peace.